long-haired weirdos, short-haired weirdos, vandals, hooligans.
The government, hug the government, love the government, hug the government, love the government.
Welcome to The Politics Guys, a place for bipartisan, rational, and civil debate on American politics and policy. I'm Trey Orndorff, a political scientist at Oklahoma Christian University, and I am joined again by Ohio area attorney Jay Carson for this midweek show. Jay, welcome to the midweek. Not bad. Yeah, it's fun. Well, we had kind of teased in the weekend show that it's the right-wing takeover, but we assured everybody that, Mike is okay. He and Ken will be here in just a few days to bring you the left-wing take and all of their fun things. I don't know what they're going to be doing for their bonus show, so that'll be a surprise for all of us, myself included. But I can tell you what we're going to be doing today. So, Jay, you and I, we had a lot of fun, but we went long on the weekend show.
Yeah, I think you and I have really, differing views on immigration, and with no offense, I think your views are different than a whole lot of folks.
Oh yeah, fair.
So that's fair. That's why I thought it was probably worth exploring them. So.
Yeah, that is absolutely fair. And I think it makes it was a good foil to kind of really think about those immigration and topics, because that was the big item. But it wasn't like that was the only thing that was happening last week. So there were two things that we wanted to get to, one a little bit more timely, one that kind of a broader item that I think is really kind of useful. The first, of course, Jay, was that on Thursday of last week, Peter Navarro, a former White House advisor to President Donald Trump, as trade advisor specifically, was sentenced to 4 months in prison for contempt of Congress. He had defied a subpoena from the House investigating the January 6th U.S. Capitol attacks, and this now marks the second former Trump insider to be convicted and sentenced for contempt of Congress. Bannon, of course, as a reminder, was the first back in 2022. Now, for context, last year, Navarro was found guilty on 2 contempts of that Congress charge. The defense for Navarro was that Trump told him to defy the committee's February 9 subpoena and assert executive privilege. The problem was he couldn't produce any evidence that Trump had actually made that claim, and Trump would never then come out and even assert that he had made the claim, which made the underlying question of whether executive privilege applied mute. And this is a moot. And this is something that Ken and I actually covered, right? It was one of those ones where, Trump would never, again, there was just no evidence. And so when discussing the sentencing, prosecution had asked for 6 months. Navarro and his lawyers argued that he, quote, had an honest belief that executive privilege had been invoked, end quote. Although, again, that was not something they were able to demonstrate. So, Jay, what was your takeaway on this?
Look, fair enough. I think there's no question he was in contempt of Congress. Whether this should have been prosecuted in the first place, I think is a different question. And I think the question that will be coming forward will be if we prosecute contempt of Congress for one party, do we prosecute it for the other? And my sense is that no, we will not. And by that I mean, would the Biden Justice Department prosecute Hunter Biden for contempt of Congress? The answer is, of course, they won't. Which leads to the troubling problem of this is a crime that is enforced solely based on the politics of the day. So I think that's the issue, and some point I think it may come to a head that maybe someone challenges that this tends to be more of like almost a bill of attainder, right, than it is a actual crime. So, but no one's made that type of argument yet, and I think that remains to be seen. But
so why do you think? Again, we want to spend a lot of time here, but I mean, it seems likely that probably Navarro and Trump did have a conversation. Why doesn't Trump just come out? I mean, it seems likely that he could have easily said, yeah, I did this, and then forced the court to have dealt with the underlying question. And instead, he just takes a really quiet step back.
I don't know. I mean, I think maybe he is being sort of a weasel, but
So you really just think it's kind of just Trump being scummy, effectively.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fair.
But the broader point is, I'm sort of like, well, so what? Because I don't know that defense would have carried the day in any event.
No, I mean, again, we weren't sure,
so
right?
Sort of you had a sort of a hypothetical defense that wasn't a good defense in the first place, and Trump wouldn't back you up on it.
But I guess the thing that I wonder, and this is something we're going to talk about in the bonus show as we think about kind of the current and post-Trump Republican Party, a lot of Trump defenders have found themselves in difficult positions, to say the least.
Yeah.
And when that has happened, they have, and I don't think anybody on any side disagrees with this, right? They have found themselves alone. And I think Navarro is just the most recent of this. Does that potentially affect, though? I mean, again, I get you, right? Like, we don't know if that particular defense would have worked, but does that leave you in a position where you have to question, okay, even if I agree with Trump, do I really want to work with him if I'm not sure where he's going to stand, even with his people, right? I mean,
I think it's definitely a recruitment problem.
Yeah. I mean, again, and this seems obvious for me because I've been yelling about it forever and a day. But, but it doesn't really often seem to you would think it would be. I don't know. So what do you think about that, Jay? I guess I am continually a little surprised, but I try to be careful about this because I recognize that I came out early and often against Trump. But I feel surprised at this point. I look at things like this and I go, okay, whatever else you think about it, why does anybody want, like, why would you want to be his lawyer at this juncture? Why would you want to do it?
Sometimes I think this is much more a psychological question than is a political question.
But it is a political question too, because I mean, when you make these decisions, when you're a politico, I mean, and you and I know this. I mean, I help students do this. I've done it myself. Your early way to move forward is to be strategic about with whom you work.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And when I say psychological question, I think that there may be a type of person that unfortunately is drawn to the type of person that Trump is, right?
Okay.
I think you can. There's a sense of listen, I'm he wouldn't do it to me, right? You know what I mean? There's almost
he's cheated on all five of it. Oh, actually, I wasn't trying to make a joke. I really wasn't, but I was kind of doing the old cheater argument. Although I guess that too would apply to Trump, but I honestly wasn't thinking of it that way. I just meant the oh well, he won't cheat on me stereotype, right?
No, I think there is some of that to some extent. And I think there is this sort of there are folks who also might say, well, look, I'll get in and I'll get famous and make my money and get out. There might be some of that. I do think it's almost more of the former, that it's sort of, it's sort of like the easiest people to con are people who think they're in on the con. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's
those
fair.
Are the easiest marks is to make them think, hey, they're in on it, and I think that's just kind of the mindset that maybe some of these people who you might end up with, and yeah. So I think that's a big issue for the second Trump presidency that has me concerned, is that during the first Trump presidency you could say, well, there's a Bill Barr and there's a John Bolton and there are.
I know that made you feel better, right? I mean, that was one of your
in the room, right?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to be the case this time.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but that ends the ad-supported preview of our midweek supporters show. So if you want to hear the rest of that show, I'm going to need to have you head to patreon.com/politics, guys, and check out our levels of support. But wait, I got some really good news on that front. So maybe you've been listening to these shows for a while and just thinking, I'm not sure. Do I want to take that plunge? Well, this is going to be the last few days of our January half price membership special. That's right. You can lock in for the entire year of 2024. That's right. The year of the presidential election, the year that we're going to have some of the biggest decisions happening in American politics and policy. You can lock in the Politics Guys for half price. So that means for $2.50, $2.50, that's nothing. You can get locked in for the rest of 2024, but it runs out soon. This deal ends at the end of January. So if you want to do that, I need you to head to patreon.com/politicsguys and check out our different levels of support. Now, don't forget as well, if you don't want to do it via Patreon, you can always head to politicsguys.com/support to see all of those. Or you can head down to the show notes right now to have access to that. But you can get access to this episode with me and Jay for half price and half price for the rest of the year by heading to patreon.com/Politics Guys. Now, as always, if you're not in a financial position to get the show, please reach out at mail@politicsguys.com and we can get you set up there. Also, don't forget all of these things are in the show notes. Now, as well, if you just like to reach out to us, talk to us about the show, maybe you want to complain to me and Jay about something, I don't know, it could be kind of fun stuff. All you have to do is send your email to mail@politicsguys.com, or you can also always find us on Facebook or X, and the links for all of that are in the show notes. So I just want to finish out this by saying thank you, as always, to the executive producers of the Politics Guys. And those executive producers are Bruce Johnson, Wilma Marino, Andra Masker, Daniel Toe, Ryan Beasley, and Don Oglesby. We'll see you again in one of our full episodes this weekend. Thank you so much.